Welcome back to Weekly Roundup. My name is Frankie.
And we have Ryan in the house.
And as usual, special thanks to the coffee break that helped us to compile all the important news for you guys every single week.
Subscribe and stay informed. And this week we have got a giveaway. We're going to give away 2 RM50 ZUS Coffee vouchers to 2 subscribers. So one each. Subscribe with the link below and stand a chance to win a RM50 ZUS Coffee voucher.
Wow. What's coffee break without coffee, right? Quickly go and sign up now.
Okay, so what's new on the news this week?
The first news that I'm going to talk about right now, when I look at the news, I was actually shocked. Jensen Huang is in Malaysia. I was like, is that the Jensen Huang that I know? Because isn't Jensen Huang supposed to be in the US? Yeah, so for context, Jensen Huang is the CEO of NVIDIA. NVIDIA is a listed company in the US Nasdaq, and it is one of the Magnificent Seven that pushed the whole US market up recently. So as I read more about the news, then it got me even more surprised because Jensen Huang was meeting up with Anwar. Then I was like,
okay, something's brewing lah.
Something is brewing. So during this trip, NVIDIA together with YTL Power, they have formed sort of partnership and they are going to build a new 20 billion ringgit AI infrastructure in YTL Power solar plant.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, okay. So it's going to be green and okay. Wow, nice.
Then when I think about it, right, it makes perfect sense because when we talk about data center, number one, data center draws a lot of energy. Right? And then number two, because everyone talking about ESG, right? So it's very important to know where is the source of your energy from. So the fact that YTL Power already has a 500 megawatt solar farm sitting right in Johor itself, it makes perfect sense NVIDIA to come and say, hey, let me use that energy and we build a AI infrastructure in this region for you. So traditionally, data center is just used to store data. There's not much value add to a point where, you know, when all these data centers starts to mushroom around the region, a lot of people starts to question like, hey, all you do is come here and take a footprint in my country and then you store data here, which don't give a lot of value to the economy because you don't need manpower, everything is run automatically by itself. So what's the point, right? But the fact that they are here, it is not just to store data. They are going to build a new AI infrastructure in Malaysia. So with this AI capability, what it does is that it takes all the raw data from the data center, they process it and turn it into valuable data. And then all the stakeholders, like let's say for example, if you want to sell a service to a customer, you want to better target them, you can use all this valuable information to do specific target to your audience.
So it's like a package lah.
It's like a package.
Like, you store data and then also you get the data center to then process the data.
Correct.
Wow.
So after this news was announced in the market, I think Reuters was the first platform that actually announced this news. When that news broke, YTL Power share price shot up and closed at the record high of 2.42 ringgit. In fact, year to date, this stock has already gone up by over 200% already.
Yeah. Wow.
Correct.
1 year.
Yeah, and its parent company, YTL Corp, which owns about, I think, 55.6% of YTL Power, they also have similar action when the news broke.
Of course lah, because they are related lah.
Correct, because they are related. And on a year-to-date basis, YTL Corp also went up by more than 200% already.
Any YTL investors in the house or not? If you've done your research, then good for you lah.
Okay, but to be fair, I think this news still came as a surprise. But why YTL Corp and YTL Power share price gone up so much is because of the potential inclusion into KLCI index.
They have announced, right?
Which they have announced, and usually big fund managers, when they want to benchmark their portfolio against the KLCI, they have to mimic whatever that is on the top 30. So when YTL Corp and YTL Power is being included into the FBM KLCI, what fund managers need to do is to buy up the two stocks as well.
Just to match that 30 share or whatsoever mix lah, which
correct.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons why these two stocks have been performing quite well. But of course, with this new catalyst coming in, that's a big boost for both companies lah.
What kind of to wonder why is it in Kulai and not in Penang, you know, like the Silicon Valley?
I think there are two reasons to that. Number one, Penang has very little space.
Okay,
Right?
yeah,
fair, right?
Fair.
Penang has very little space. Number two, because this is a collaboration with YTL Power, where YTL Power has an existing solar farm in Johor itself, then it makes sense for them to build the data center near to the power source lah. I think this is the two main reasons.
Maybe some spillover effects lah from Singapore, because the other day we were just talking about how Singapore has like so many data centers, right?
And they command like 60% market share in the region, right? If I recall.
Okay, now we'll talk about what's happening to our another neighbor, Indonesia. So TikTok has agreed to invest 1.5 billion in a JV with GoTo.
1.5 billion US dollar, right?
1.5 billion US dollar. Wow. And to invest this with Indonesia's largest internet group, GoTo Group, with 75% stake to restart its e-commerce ambitions in Indonesia.
Restart the ambition of e-commerce. That means they started before, but it didn't work out?
Correct. So what happened was that the government banned direct sales on social media platforms. This move was made to protect the SMEs, the micro SMEs in the country. The Indonesian trade minister said that this TikTok shop has been such a threat to the SMEs in the country, so they decided to ban it.
Shouldn't they allow digitalization of their micro SME industry and encourage them to move on to social media platforms so that they can reach out to more people, like what Malaysia is doing?
Correct. But I think there could be some protectionism in play, right? Because
Maybe.
Tokopedia is the largest
E-commerce platform.
E-commerce platform in Indonesia. So it could have some, it could maybe feeling the heat from TikTok because TikTok grew, bounce and bounce. It launched in 2021. And last year itself, 2022, they already command 5% of the e-commerce market.
Wow.
$52 billion market, right? They already command 5%. And as a result, the government then decided to step in. Since there's been a couple of months since that happened, and then TikTok and then say, hey, you can't fight with each other, then we have to work together. So they did the investment, a $1.5 billion investment in GoTo.
So in a way, this is Balakang Mari lah. Because when they come in, the government said, no, I'm going to ban you. Okay, since I cannot come in, right? So I go behind your GoTo. Now GoTo is the one that's going to push for this e-commerce. But actually, the behind the engine is still...
It's actually TikTok.
Right?
It's actually ByteDance and TikTok. So then it makes you question, is this $1.5 billion investment worth it? Actually, if you think about it, this guy's, TikTok shop itself is about 5%. Just imagine, right? If they command 5% of gross merchandise value, GMV, and that's about 2.6 billion. And if they just take 3% in payment fee, at like the merchant discount rate, you take 3% in processing fee as a platform, that's already $78 million in fees in the span of a year. And this market is slated to grow, right? So based on a study by Temasek, Google and Bain, right, the Indonesian market is expected to grow to 210 billion by 2030 in a span in 7 years. So it's going to grow fourfold, all right? And if TikTok shop continues to dominate 5%, right? GMV itself is going to be about 10 billion. If it's a 3%, it's going to be 300 million. So it makes sense for them to start investing and start the partnership again. And for GoTo itself, right, it's also a good way for them because the biggest revenue, I think, from GoTo is actually from its ride-hailing, Gojek. So by disposing of this Tokopedia part, which is not so profitable, it's actually de-risking.
Unlocking the value as well.
Yeah. But the investors didn't agree because the share price dropped. On the day the news was announced, the share price dropped by about 20%. GoTo share price dropped by 20%. But let's see how this all pans out.
Did the share price drop because the price was too cheap, or are investors concerned that actually it's still ByteDance and TikTok behind, and government maybe they see that and now they want to ban GoTo as well, so that's why the share price dropped? Probably
because that you see online marketplaces do seem lucrative, and when you sell such a big portion, 75% of it away, then you are going to lose sort of like a cash cow. So maybe the investors think this is a cash cow, and they are foregoing a lucrative long-term business in the country because again it's going to grow to 210 billion in the span of 7 years. So are they really making the right decision? It remains to be seen. So yeah, let's see how this pans out. Okay, now so let's come back closer to Malaysia, right? So during the second quarter of 2023, job vacancies advertised online in Malaysia actually surged by 23% compared to the previous quarter. There were 260,000 vacancies in the second quarter of the year, according to Department of Statistics Malaysia. And these jobs all came from about 70,000 establishments, which is also another significant increase from the 55,000 in the first quarter.
Okay, now I start to wonder, why suddenly there's such a big increase in job vacancies? Is it because more FDI coming in, so they need more talents from Malaysia? Or is it because suddenly Malaysian businesses want to expand their business and therefore they're hiring more people, or what?
It could be a bit of both, right? Because you see the GDP in the first quarter grew about 5.6% year on year. Second quarter, which is the same corresponding period, right, grew about 2.9%. But I always think this, you're right? So as a business person, you think, my business is growing this year. I project my revenue to grow up. Or because it's a good year, right? My first quarter is so good, my sales are good. Okay, then I'll hire in my second quarter because you're expanding your business. This job vacancy data then becomes sort of like a lagging indicator of how well the economy is doing. Right? Because your GDP grew first, and also it could be from FDI, because this year also we've recorded, I think, about 225 billion. That was the
200 over, if I recall.
200 over billion and FDI and DDI. So that also it could be a driver because these FDIs will bring jobs.
Okay, more jobs is good. That I agree.
Yep.
But what kind of jobs are these? Are they getting paid well, or is it like a low skill kind of jobs?
Malaysia today, I think, is still quite dominant by manufacturing. Of course, we are slowly moving to services, right? Because service jobs also, I think, contribute quite a bit of the FDI. I think these are, again, the country is moving towards these higher quality jobs, better paying jobs, hopefully, which is then in line with the government's hope of increasing the wages of Malaysians and eradicating poverty, right? Which is of the unity government's mandate. Hey, we are not paid by the government, but we're not paid by the government to talk about all this.
So speaking about pay, I think there's some concerns about the gender pay gap as well, right? According to the Malaysian Gender Gap Index for 2022 released by the Department of Statistics Malaysia again, Malaysia scored 0.694, or in other words 69.4% in 2022, which put Malaysia in 93rd among 146 countries globally. So there's a lot of room for improvement, right? So
that's one way to look at it. That's very optimistic.
Yeah, so this index, right, covers 4 sub-indices encompassing economic participation, opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, and also political empowerment. What do you think? Do you think women in Malaysia today are getting the amount of salary that they deserve, or do you think they could be paid better?
As a man, it's a bit touchy. So I'm not mansplaining this topic. I hope I'm
objective view. Right?
No, really, I'm like being objective. Right? I think from my point of view, what I've seen is that women tends to get it a bit rough in the sense that you are in the corporate world, like you're dominated by males. There are more males in boardrooms, there are more males in management compared to female. So female itself, you're already outlier, you have to fight a bit harder. And then you've got your maternity leaves. Because the years that you're in your maternity leave, unlikely you'll get promoted. Compared to a man of the same age, 30 years old, and another female 30 years old, but 31 years old, you got a kid. Hey, but the person might climb, the male will climb because there's no maternity leave. The guy can continue to perform and go to work, but the female who is pregnant is going to take a bit of a slowdown in their job because first year mother. I think adjusted for that, this also could explain why the gender pay gap exists.
Yeah, I think because our society has this practice where women will carry the responsibility of unpaid care work. Like you mentioned just now, pregnancy, maybe looking after the house, do some housework and things like that. While on the other hand, men in our society is responsible for
becoming the breadwinner.
But
today it's a bit different, yeah?
Today the whole thing can shift. We can have a house husband and a full-time female breadwinner in the house.
Correct. So the situation has changed, right? Because the wages disparity is, for every 100 ringgit earned by men, women only receive 66 ringgit by 67 cents. So that's a third lower, right? And this is despite having more than half the women have tertiary education compared to only 1/3 of the men.
So women are smarter.
There were statistics on the enrollment in universities as well. There are more women in universities, and this is across the world. I recall this in the US, it's the same. It's also happening in this country, right? Where more women are going into unis. But despite all of that, despite education, so we're not saying that education is not good, right? But despite that, there is still a disparity in wage. There's still a gap. Again, it's due to the unclaimed work that women has to bear. But progress takes time, right? So monthly salaries and wages for female employees have continued to increase, right? In 2021, it was 2,968. In 2022, it's about 3,140 ringgit. So progress takes time. As the country then build more and more friendly policy for women, and as companies also think about how they can increase the perks or benefits for women, then we may see this gap start to narrow. The labour force participation rate among women is still very low. Women participation rate is about 55.8, whereas men is about 82%. And how can a country drive higher participation rate?
You need women participation.
Okay, then how do you get women to participate in the economy more?
Okay, if part of their responsibility is on this unpaid care work that they need to do, why not we give them some incentives to provide all these unpaid care facilities at the workplace? For example, a kindergarten near the office, right? Or a daycare center, right? Something like that. So then all these women can then bring their children and leave it in the facility while they go to work. Then that would encourage more women to come back to the workforce. Because if you think about it, right, let's say Malaysia, 30 million population, let's say half men and women. If you get every male to come to work, right, you're only utilizing 50% of your workforce. If you can double it to 100%, which means to say you bring women to the workforce, potentially our GDP can double, right?
In that way, in that way you can .
Yeah. So all you need to do is to just give a little bit more incentives to women to come back to work. Then in an ideal situation when everyone comes back, double GDP.
But that is the keyword. The keyword is better incentives.
Yeah.
It's because you think about the cost of your unpaid care work. There's an opportunity cost. The woman can't work. So what if, as a man, you're given a choice to take paternity leave? Okay, right?
Yeah.
Right? Instead of taking 6 months maternity leave, then the female take paternity lah. But is the country ready for it? Are the companies ready to give this incentive out? Let us know what you think.
I want to ask you a question. You know, the government has sort of sought out the 5G infrastructure in Malaysia already, right? They're going to go with the single network, and then potentially maybe they're talking about a dual network as well. I think at this point, the 5G coverage in Malaysia is about 70%, 76%, if I'm not wrong.
Yep.
Are you using 5G today?
No,
No.
I don't see the benefit for me lah. Because you have to pay more. The telcos are charging more, right? It's going to drain my phone's battery. I don't see significant increase in speed because for me, I use it to reply WhatsApp, Telegram, browse Instagram, watch YouTube. The speed is good enough lah for me. Do you use 5G?
So I got this offer to try 5G for free for 1 month. So
Okay.
I'm still in that trial period.
Okay.
So once I subscribed to it, the first thing I did was to test the speed. Oh, it was fast. It was faster than my fiber.
Wow, how?
It was around 300-400 Mbps.
What about the coverage? Was it full?
That's the thing. Coverage is very unstable.
Okay.
And because it is unstable, it keep on switching back and forth.
4G, 5G, 4G, 5G. Okay.
5G. And even it is on 5G, it's like 1 bar, 2 bar, 1 bar, 2 bar like that. So while the speed is there, the reliability is bad. It's so bad that I'm thinking I will switch it back to 4G, not because I want higher speed or lower speed, just because I want that consistency of connection to the mobile service.
I have heard of 5G. The network, right, is not so.
It's not stable.
Shorter waves, I think.
Shorter waves.
I think it's shorter waves. It's not so good in buildings.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think this whole 5G thing is more for like Internet of Things, which means connected devices lah. Or in open areas. Not so much for the way we live or the way we work, because we're all in buildings, right? You know, our house, our homes are all buildings. So maybe that's why it's not so good lah. I could be wrong. I'm not an expert in 5G.
Yeah, but it makes perfect sense. I think if you are outside, right, let's say for example, you're driving an autonomous car. The autonomous car must have super high speed because it needs the split second to determine whether to brake or not to brake. So 5G makes sense for this kind of Internet of Things.
And all that, yeah.
But when you're in the building, just using a laptop, watching a movie, I think 4G or fiber is pretty good already, right?
But even with the coverage reaching 75%, the adoption rate is quite low, right?
Yeah, it's very low. Like people like me, even you give me free for 1 month, before the 1 month finish, I want to opt out already. It's bad.
Okay. What I'm reading here is like the adoption rate is about 3.6 million subscriptions. Right? If you look at our population of 32 million, 33 million, around that figure, it's only about 10.8%. Not that high, right?
Very low, huh?
You have such a huge coverage, but people are not using it. So is it really a useful infrastructure or not? That remains to be seen.
Not sure. Well, number one, I think the speed is fantastic. I think we are the 3rd fastest in the world, right? So kudos for that. But the thing is, they really need to improve the connectivity. So I think in order to do that, a dual network makes sense. You create some form of competition, right? So when there's competition, if you don't buck up, the next player is going to come in and fill the gap, right? But if you don't have that dual network and if you just have single network, it's a monopoly. You don't like the line, too bad lah, right?
There's no incentive to improve.
Exactly.
Okay, I mean, hopefully the government sticks to their word lah. When they say like they will hit 80% of coverage, they will then build the infrastructure lah. That's what they're promising, right? Let's see lah. But I think like you're right, like connectivity becomes an issue. Even the cost lah, because you have to pay more. What's the point when you're not really seeing the benefit? If the benefit is there, I don't mind paying. But if it's not, then.
And also based on experience, we know for the fact that, well, don't even need 2-3 years, maybe 6 months to 1 year down the road, this whole 5G could be so common that it becomes a free service. Just like your 4G.
As it should be lah. Should be lah. I mean, eventually you will go to that.
Since we talk about monopoly in telco and whatnot, right? Suddenly I thought of one more monopoly, Astro.
Yeah,
so Astro sort of monopolized the TV, the whole media business, right? Because they are the only paid TV network in Malaysia. But despite them being a monopoly, they recorded a net loss of 47.05 million ringgit in the 3rd quarter. This is the first time ever that they're making losses.
So many years in operation, first time. Wow.
Yeah,
but they were a monopoly lah. Now you're competitors, right? You have your unified TV and all that. Does that count? Or is it still Astro supplying to them?
Depending on how you argue it, right?
But they are the biggest lah.
They are the biggest lah.
Every household at one point had an Astro. At least one Astro.
So Unify TV, the strategy was a little bit different. You have to subscribe to the Unify broadband, and then it bundles with it.
Right.
Astro, it can be sold as a standalone product. It can also be bundled with telco services as well.
Still is the only one.
It's the only one with that kind of structure in Malaysia, right?
Except for TV boxes. But TV boxes are illegal. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, the reason why they are making losses this quarter is because they are doing VSS.
Okay.
Yeah. So VSS stands for Voluntary Separation Scheme, which means to say that means companies, they feel that their cash flow may not be doing very great, or maybe they foresee that in the future they have made some constraint. So they come up with this scheme for their employees to say that, hey, would you want to take on this offer, take some money, and then go and find new opportunities outside, because we need to conserve our cash flow. So sometimes companies do that.
It seems like VSS, MSS is quite a common practice in Malaysia. I mean, that's what we've seen so far, because you've seen other countries, you've seen US, for example, right? All these tech companies just do layoffs. They don't care. But there's no like a VSS, because I can still say no as an employee, right?
Yeah.
Technically, I can still say no, right?
Yeah.
But
no, layoffs is very ugly because you're firing people. But VSS is Voluntary Separation Scheme. So I give you the offer, hey, Ryan, would you like to leave this company? If you do, I'm gonna pay you some money.
very low key telling people to leave lah.
Yeah, correct.
But in a nice manner.
Yeah, in a nice manner, because you get a lump sum, a good lump sum, and this lump sum, it is able to keep you going for a couple of months for you to look for a new job.
52 million, the cost.
Yeah, 52 million is not small money.
Quite a lot of headcount. If you think about an average 100,000 per headcount, that's 520 headcount.
Anyway, on the business side of things, right, the revenue also didn't do very well. It dropped 6% during the quarter to 828.5 million ringgit due to lower contribution from the TV segment, and they also exited from their TV shopping business.
The Go Shop lah.
The Go Shop business.
But it's not all gloomy for these guys, right?
They are coming out with new strategies. Yeah, so it's not all gloomy for Astro, right? They are trying to transform their business. So one thing that they're doing is to digitize the business. You know, in the past, you used the satellite dish, right? So these days, you don't need that dish anymore. It can go through the internet. So that's one form of digitization of the company, which is yielding result. Coupled with other strategic plans that they have, they managed to increase the average revenue per user. In short, the technical term is called ARPU. When the ARPU is high, then potentially it means they can rope in a higher revenue in the future.
I think they partner with Netflix and Disney, right?
Yes, they
to
do.
roll out, and then they bundle it in their television subscription package lah.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's one way for a company to increase the ARPU lah.
But what do you think is the unique selling point of Astro? Like, why do you still need Astro when you've got Netflix, you've got Disney Plus and all that?
Sometimes having a default option is good. Turn on the TV, you sort of know what you're going to watch, at what time, at what day. Because now with Netflix, while it's Netflix or Disney or any other streaming platforms for that matter, the illusion of choice is there. Wow, you can watch anything. These days, I actually find myself, right, browsing through the catalog, I don't even watch.
Yeah.
I watch maybe like, I feel like there's too many options on all these platforms, and I can't decide what to watch.
You spend time scrolling more than watching.
That becomes my default behavior. Even on YouTube, it's the same. But as Astro, you just turn it on. You turn channels. You find a nice channel you want to watch. You used to watch MTV, Cartoon Network, V, Discovery Channel history. It's quite default. So I think maybe people enjoy that. And of course, for parents, for the older generation, they also still like Astro because of the TV dramas and whatnot.
Well, it all makes sense, but there's one more biggest factor.
Which one?
Is the sports channels.
Okay.
People subscribe to Astro for the sports channel.
Yes.
Yeah, but the thing about sports channel is you need to buy the license to air those sports events. And all these licenses are very expensive.
Astro remains the only one that can do so.
They have to bid They have to bid at a hefty price to get the license.
Okay. F1,
football, whatever.
cycling and all that lah.
Correct.
Of course, football because Malaysians are big football fans. So
correct. And with the ringgit doing so badly in 2023, I think that's one big reason why their numbers look like this lah.
Could be lah. It becomes very expensive to just sustain because you can't increase the cost, right?
Luckily, this year don't have big events, right? I don't think this year got any big events.
No lah, don't have football. Usually.
When's the next
World Cup?
When's the next World Cup?
Year, Euro 2024. No, it's probably next year lah.
Probably next
Usually
year.
in even numbers one. Sorry, my
4
sports
years, 4
not
years.
so good.
World Cup is every 4 years. But
Euro,
I can't remember when's the last World Cup.
I can't remember. I can't remember. I can't remember. Olympics was Tokyo Olympics was 2021. 2026 is the next one.
Okay.
Next football. Also 2022 was the football. Who won? Argentina won that year. Anyway,
okay.
we're
gone off topic. Let's come back here. The point that I want to make is that because 2023 was a very bad year for ringgit, so I think that is going to affect their numbers in FY 2023 and FY 2024. But I've been thinking that maybe 2024, 2025 ringgit could do better, simply because if the Fed is going to cut interest rate, the US dollar is going to come down.
They did
and
announce.
with so much FDI coming to Malaysia could potentially do better. So you have that double whammy impact, right? Maybe 2024, 2025 ringgit will be much stronger. When that happens, when all these big events come, maybe they're able to buy all these contents, all these licenses at a cheaper price.
Yeah, hopefully things do turn around for these guys, but it's just a dip I guess, because of the VSS that one time dip
Yeah, hopefully just one time only They don't do another round of VSS If not, it's going to hit their books again.
Okay, Frankie, I think that's all we have for the week. We hope you enjoy the content. We hope you enjoy the news. Do subscribe to the Coffee Break. Do not forget, because this time around when you subscribe with the link below, you get a chance to win an RM50 ZUS Coffee voucher. Alright, 2 of you gets to win, and that's easily 5 cups of coffee for news and also for free, right? Subscribe to the Coffee Break.
Yep, and see you guys next time.
Take care. Bye.